In the postmodern capitalist corporation, there's a critical shift in the traditional paradigm on the relative importance of financial capital and manufactured capital into a broader and more encompassing role of the importance of the six capitals. The critical issue that I will be discussing now is how do we integrate our understanding of the six capitals and embed this into our thinking about value creation in the modern corporation. How do we reduce the potential value destruction due to ignoring these intangibles, these hidden risks, and develop a model that results in what Mervyn King calls value creation through integrated thinking, and as a consequence, integrated reporting on these six capitals. The IARC and Mervyn King, its founder, spent a lifetime thinking about these issues. So let me share some of their knowledge, ranging from a discussion of the megatrends that they see that will influence you in the modern corporation, how they impact on the six capitals, and what you need to change within the corporation that will have a positive impact on the public stakeholders that you will serve as well in your capacity as fiduciaries and stewards of the modern corporation. So let's first look at the megatrends and begin according to Mervyn, our discussion. As Mervyn says, the world that you're going into, the business world that you're going into, is not what it used to be. Reporting is not what it used to be. Strategy is not what it used to be. Taxation, not what it used to be. Stakeholders, not what they used to be. Transparency, not what it used to be. Value, not what it used to be. Raising capital, not what it used to be. So let's talk a little about Mervyn's megatrends. And I'll go through the megatrends quickly, and then we'll discuss each one of them a little more in depth, at least some of them. Global financial crises, climate change crisis, ecological overshoot, radical transparency, greater expectation from stakeholders, population growth, digital and internet generation era, fourth industrial revolution. We can't carry on business as usual, and we have to learn to make more with less. Regarding climate change, the climate change crisis, Mervyn looks at this from the perspective of stranded assets. Stranded assets are those with a value that would change dramatically, either positively or negatively, under certain scenarios such as reasonable price on carbon or water, or improved regulation on labor standards in the emerging economies. Stranded assets have the potential to reduce the long-term value of entire sectors ranging from oil and gas and pharmaceuticals, and not just the value of particular companies. As a result, according to King, there is a potential for stranded businesses, a prospect which seems to be giving many people an interest in maintaining and defending the status quo and slowing the transition to more sustainable models. Efforts to prevent progress in this area are as overt as lobbying for favorable policy, as covert as financing inaccurate pseudoscientific studies on the climate crisis, with the aim of creating false doubts about the reality the world is facing. And as Mervyn says, until there are policies that establish a fair price for widely understood externalities, academics and financial professionals, legal, fiduciaries, and stewards should strive to quantify the impact of stranded assets and analyze the subsequent implications for assessing investment opportunities. The ecological overshoot that Mervyn King talks about in Megatrends is population explosion, limitless resources in infinite capacity that, of course, we know is not true. He calls this Planet Inn, like Holiday Inn. There's just a limited capacity. We have 7.4 billion people today. By 2045, have 9.3 billion people. There's food insecurity because unlimited resources are not unlimited. And as he says today, 1.8 billion people have no access to potable water. Regarding the internet generation, and that's you folks, the millennials, Ph.D. students, LLMs, that the global financial crisis is only physical, but the environmental crunch is much more important. One of the things that Mervyn noted that I said before, which I noted, was that students prefer to take appointments at companies with sustainability embedded into strategy. And I think when you start looking for jobs, if you're not already within the corporation, you may ask the question, what is your strategy? What is the sustainable strategy? And is it embedded into your long-term goals of the company? As again, Mervyn talks about going from share value to shared values. So let's take a look then at how we translate the 6 capitals and our knowledge of them into an action plan. And what Mervyn King and the IRC have done is they've taken a look at 4 stages of this integrated thinking. Of course, Mervyn says that Einstein's definition of insanity, doing something over and over again and expecting a different result, is effectively what we're doing right now without integrated thinking about all the 6 capitals. If we only think about financial capital that can determine value creation, the result actually could be the destruction of value. A second stage of integrated thinking is to understand and accept there is a problem. It's like an Aristotle theory. There is a problem, a new solution is required, but the solution can't be based on old thinking. As Einstein said, we can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used to create them. And again, if our strategy only considers financial, it's not a strategy. And corporate social responsibility is not a strategy. And finally, sustainability issues, if they're not embedded in the strategy, are not a strategy of true integrated thinking. Mervyn talks about the third stage of integrated thinking and integrated reporting as well. He says, well, all 6 capitals must be considered. The relationships with stakeholders must be considered. The resources and the relationship to those resources must be considered. And the question you will need to ask in your organization is, how do you make your money? What decision-making abilities do you have? Is it value creation? Is it value destruction? Or is it transformation? And can you even ask those questions in terms of the current strategy that you're in your current corporation? And then let's take a look at the inputs and the outcomes, the internal and the external consequences for these 6 capitals. And finally, in this 4th stage of integrated thinking, Mervyn talks about moving from share value to shared value. And you've heard that a couple of times before. But basically, that company that directs its operation to generating long-term value for its business and absolutely for its society. And that its success depends not only on internal financial return, but external social, environmental, and economic results. It's a little discussion which I'd like to raise that Mervyn brings to the forefront on integrated thinking, its relationship to the 6 capitals. Over the past few decades, sustainability issues have slowly become mainstream, and there is a shift from the creation of share value to the generation of shared values. Through shared value creation, a company links its operations to generating long-term value both for its business and for society as a whole. It defines its success in terms of internal financial returns and external social and economic results, ultimately creating shared value, acknowledging both the work that corporations need to do to reduce negative impacts on society, as well as, and more fundamentally, how they can be part of the progress on global challenges such as climate change, the enforcement of human rights. So following this shift, there's a new trend of corporate reporting. It's called the integration of financial and non-financial concerns into one accounting tool known as integrated reporting. Now, this is not a factor in most publicly traded U.S. corporations, or in fact private corporations, but it is a factor that's spreading around the world in the EU, South Africa, and the UK. Mervyn also talks about the benefits of integrated reporting, and I think it's really important so that the siloed departments of corporate governance, corporate legal, corporate risk management, the executive suites, corporate financial, are not siloed. What Mervyn suggests is integrated reporting connects the departments. One of the benefits is the opportunity it provides to connect teams from across an organization, breaking down silos and developing more integrated thinking. Also, there's improved internal processes leading to better understanding of the business. Changes to the system driven by integrated reporting requirements are providing greater visibility among business activities and helping to improve understanding of how organizations create value in the broadest sense. Again, these are foreign concepts not really being performed among American corporations. And a third benefit of integrated reporting: the increased focus and awareness of senior management on the long-term sustainability of the business, which is helping them to gain a more holistic understanding of their organization. And it crosses department lines, crosses corporate, legal, risk management, financial. And it increases the awareness of all the C-suite and senior executives, the fiduciaries, the trustees, the stewards of the corporation, on the importance of holistic, integrated thinking. For better articulation of strategy and business model, this creates integrated reporting, creates better understanding of organizational activities, enabling companies to establish holistic business models, helping to streamline communications. And finally, and most importantly, we're talking about stakeholders. 5, organizations starting to identify ways to measure the value to stakeholders of managing and reporting on sustainability issues. The focus of understanding the 6 capitals and the focus of understanding integrated reporting is designed to result in improving the value of the company. As Mervyn says, the integrated report shows how an organization creates value over time. The process is influenced by the organization's external environment, its stakeholders, and the resources it uses. And it results in increases, decreases, or transformation of the resources triggered by the organization's operations. This displays its value creation process. And the integrated process includes value creation as a result of the organization looking at the financial returns to the providers of financial capital, but to the stakeholders in the society at large. It's the ability of the organization to create value for itself, linked to the value it creates for other stakeholders. Now, the inputs, of course, are the capitals and the resources and the stakeholder relationships that an organization draws upon, and how it makes its money and how it creates its outputs. The outcomes, of course, can be incredibly positive. As Mervyn says, the internal and external consequences, both positive and negative for the capitals, is as a result of the organization's business model and outputs. Value creation is a process that results in increases, decreases, or transformation of the capitals caused by the organization's business activities and outputs. Now, when you're in your role as a fiduciary, corporate legal compliance, risk management, I ask you to start challenging yourself to start thinking about value creation. And everything that you look at in terms of corporate compliance, regulatory compliance, sustainability compliance, or if you start looking at the 6 capitals, the question is that activity or transaction or the process the company is incurring, is that process resulting in an increase, a decrease, or transformation of the capitals caused by the organization's business activities and outputs? Some of the inputs that you need to consider, of course, are the certain types of capitals, the financial capital, like the funding model, the infrastructure, the people, the intellectual property, the raw materials, the ecosystems, the services from the ecosystems, and the relationships. But the outcomes are even more important. And the outcomes are generally not the types of outcomes a financial manager would measure. Outcomes include customer satisfaction, of course, profit and loss, shareholder return, asset consumption, generally not something a financial manager would look at, contribution to the local economy through taxes, job creation, employee development and engagement, improved standards of living, environmental impact, and our license to operate within the community. Most of these are not the types of measures, by ignoring the 6 capitals, that a financial executive or CEO would look at. In conclusion, we're talking about the future that you're going to be facing in the modern, postmodern capitalist corporation. The future requires mindset changes. It requires a relationship between the capitals that we talked about and the stakeholder relationships. Over the next years, you're going to see a population growth, diminishing natural assets, and greater stakeholder expectations, responsible investing, and a movement from what we call financial capitalism to sustainable capitalism. Mervyn closes with a couple of ideas, and he quotes from Helen Keller, who says the only thing worse than being blind is having sight and no vision. As Mervyn says, we have the light, why grope in the dark? Thank you.